Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you folks are doing awesome out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great start to your week so far out there. Here to bring you the latest information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Tuesday. Of course, once again, the big topic is significant severe weather. We did have the severe weather events really yesterday evening into the overnight hours, leading all the way into really this morning. Actually, right now we have ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings, even tornado warnings. But luckily, last night's threats really didn't materialize. Of course, like I said, we do have the active weather right now. All that energy has really gotten going, after midnight last night into this morning. But for the most part, last night's severe weather event didn't really unfold. So that's the good news for the folks in the plains. But today's setup is certainly different. Just because it didn't evolve the way that it potentially could one day or one night doesn't mean that's going to carry on into the next day as far as the severe weather threat. So we're going to talk about why I don't think that's going to be the case. I definitely think we are going to have a much more high-end severe weather risk compared to yesterday's threats. In this video, we're going to discuss that and break it down, all the details for you folks. Mention a couple small towns out there, a couple cities. I'll probably butcher a few names just like I always do. But we're going to keep you guys aware of what's going to happen, say what potentially could happen from Iowa, Wisconsin, all the way to Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas. We'll break it all down for you folks. And then we'll talk about everybody else too. And then we'll briefly mention tomorrow's severe weather threat also. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank you all for the ongoing support. Things have really slowed down, even though things have kind of picked up in the weather world as far as severe weather. But I just want to, always show my appreciation to the people who continue to tune in. Thank you all so much for that. And just thank you for being loyal to my channel. It's certainly doesn't go unnoticed, and it's certainly appreciated. So if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and gives others an opportunity to do so too. So, of course, all the weather's right in the middle of the country. We got a couple severe thunderstorm warnings, even a tornado warning as of right now, the time I'm making this video, which is around 7 a.m. right on the dot Eastern time, 6 a.m. Central time. We got a lot of heavy rain all the way up into the Dakotas, even some rumbles of thunder, heavy rain starting to surge into the southern half of Minnesota, kind of round one, almost out of three, kind of surging through Iowa. This is going to be a big round of storms that blast through almost the entire state of Iowa. We got all the, I would say, the more significant weather ongoing in like eastern Nebraska, eastern Kansas, even some storms down here in northern Oklahoma, little thin line of storms here in Texas too, and a little bit of shower activity for the deep south. Wraparound flow, giving the Rockies some snow, lower elevations, just rain. And we are watching a little bit of energy that's going to fly down out of Canada into Montana, deliver a little bit of higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain for those areas. So this is what's going on right now. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have the high wind warnings because of this low and just this disturbance over the middle of the country, really creating a tight gradient, which is creating strong winds across the high plains. Red flag warnings still up too for that fire danger areas that we certainly need the rainfall there. Wind advisories in more of this tan sand light color. We got the tornado watches ongoing right now for the potential for a couple strong tornadoes. And right up the Rockies, we got winter weather advisories in the teal. We got winter storm warnings up in this pink color right here. And yeah, that's what's going on as far as watches and warnings. Eastern U.S., Western U.S., pretty quiet. It's just what's sandwiched in between that's pretty active and what will continue to be active over the next 24 hours. Excessive rainfall outlook, just a marginal risk in this area. I could see this bumping up to a slight risk right here. I was checking out how much rain could potentially fall over the Midwest over the next 24 to 36 hours. A few inches of rain could fall, so we'll see what happens with that. But now, just at least a 5% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. So let's break down the severe weather threat. We'll jump right into this. So this is the broad look. This is as of right now around 7 a.m. Of course, just like what happened in yesterday morning's video. We had that change. I was glad I reiterated it about 100 times that the tornado threat could increase. Thankfully, no real nocturnal tornadoes yet last night. We had a couple observed tornadoes, so hopefully they didn't do any damage or affect anybody's lives. But, of course, I think we will know more here in the coming hours. But today's tornado threat, I think, is going to be more higher end. I don't think it's going to get a 15% risk bump up. I don't think, but it could. So just want to reiterate again that some of this information could change. This is what it looks like, broad look as of now. Enhanced risk right here in the Midwest, slight risk extending all the way from southern Wisconsin all the way down to the Ozarks of Arkansas. And we got a marginal risk kind of strung out, kind of weird, extending all the way into the central Alps region of West Virginia, even Virginia. We had some nasty weather in southeastern Virginia yesterday. I was making a joke that they drop an enhanced risk like it ain't nothing these days, and I think a few people on social media thought I was taking a knock at the Storm Prediction Center, but I really wasn't. I was just making a joke. If you follow me on social media, you know that I like to joke around sometimes. But definitely had some nasty storms in southeast VA yesterday. It certainly confirmed, so Storm Prediction Center did an excellent job. But we will watch just this entire area and break it all down. But let's go and dive a little bit deeper into this. And we'll really zoom into the Midwest. Level 3 out of 5 risk. This includes Des Moines, Ames, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Dubuque, Davenport, Burlington, even sections of Illinois too. I'll try to mention a couple areas like, let's see, well, there ain't a whole lot. I think Galesburg, Illinois is in this also, maybe just barely. But anyways, slight risk extends all the way from southeastern Wisconsin into northern Iowa, a very small section of Minnesota, all the way back to Omaha for what's going on right now. Kansas City including this for really what's going to happen this morning. Columbia, St. Louis, Springfield, all the way down into northern Arkansas. Slight risk includes just about the entire state of Illinois. Level 1 out of 5 risk in the marginal for the dark green. So what's this driven off of? Tornado outlook here. In the yellow, there's a 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location, including everybody in the enhanced risk area. So not only in the yellow, 10% risk of a tornado, but you also have in the entire yellow area a hatched risk, which means in the black outline region, black dashes going in between it, you also have a 10% risk of a strong tornado, EF2 or higher. The entire brown area, that's a 5% risk of a tornado. You do have a risk of winds. That's definitely not the highest risk threat for today, but it certainly is a risk, and we could get a bump up right in the middle of this, right here into this region, right here, if I had to guess if there was going to bump up the wind outlook. As of now, the yellow, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour as of right now. And then the hail outlook, all right, in the red, you have a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger with some of these storms. And then in the yellow, a 15% risk of that same criteria. But once again, you got a hatched risk up that includes almost the entirety of the red area and a good chunk of the yellow, which means everybody in the black outline region, including all the cities included into this, has a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger, which that is what the Storm Prediction Center considers significant hail. So that's what we have for today for the most highlighted area. Definitely the focal point area for the significant severe weather for today. So let's continue to move forward. Let's take a look at the HRRR model. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. The radar out of Omaha and surrounding regions. We got this tornado warning south of Topeka. And we do have some hefty storms kind of north of Omaha that continues to move north, starting to move into the Sioux City, eventually making it into the Sioux Falls region. Hefty storms ongoing throughout eastern Nebraska. All this energy will pivot throughout Iowa this morning to this afternoon. Then we have to watch a secondary area of storms, which I personally think has the higher end risk of producing some strong tornadoes. If I was a storm chaser, I would be really targeting them, but we're about to break that down. So, latest HRRR model handling what's going on decently well. We're starting at around 7 a.m. Central Time, so it's about an hour before this. We'll keep this going, and really the common theme here is that this first round is going to sweep. And let's just focus on Iowa, even into southeast Wisconsin, southern sections of Minnesota that you see on your screen up here. So this kind of first round of storms will begin to strengthen again. This is around 11 a.m. lunchtime. You see these storms kind of blasting through western Iowa, starting to affect Des Moines at this point. Then they start to really affect the central portion of Iowa, 1 to 2 p.m. But if you notice, you're starting to see darker reds, even some pinks and some purples in here. These storms are beginning to intensify. Now, I will say this. These storms could be intense all the way into the southern counties in Minnesota. But you see this line of storms sweeping through. All hazards are possible with this. Very large hail, damaging winds, and an isolated tornado or two. Certainly out of this main push. We have the ongoing tornado risk right now also, which we've had already an observed tornado earlier this morning in areas of, I believe, eastern Kansas. But you see, as this one line of storms begins to intensify, begins to, head off into, southeast Wisconsin, you're starting to get some rain. These storms could be intense down here in southeastern Iowa. And they even begin to look almost semi-discrete. You notice how they kind of begin to group up, almost not congealing anymore. Please watch out. If you live in Dubuque, Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, these storms are moving through. This is around 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon. But you notice how basically this area of storms spawns out of nowhere, just pops up out of nowhere. Bang, there they are. These are the concerning ones right here. So I'm going to try to mention a couple town names. So if you live in, I think it's spelled Osceola. I know some folks in Iowa will correct me. Osceola, definitely correct me. But I would say that right around that area, kind of just south of Des Moines, I think that these storms are going to pop up, not literally out of nowhere, but within an hour or two, pop up and really get going. And then they're going to ride, I believe that's Highway 34 that kind of skirts across southern Iowa. I really think that they'll affect this area for a time period. Ottumwa, you guys, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, have a threat. And then here's another round after this main round that affects some of the same areas. Now, there is some questions about this round. It might not form. But these storms, in my personal opinion, have the best threat from up here all the way down into southeastern Iowa. And, you could very well get some storms into northern Missouri, western Illinois. If any storm is going to produce a stronger end tornado, you got to watch all these right in here. And then look how they're kind of sectioned out. They're discrete at this point. Starting to move close to Davenport, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids. This is around 7 p.m. Central Time. Could get them all the way down to Quincy. And then, like I said, getting close to Dubuque at this point, Clinton, and they're potentially, a second round all the way into southeastern Wisconsin as we're getting into the evening hours. So after that round, I do think drier, cooler air moves in and we're done. So I know that's a mouthful. That's a lot, but I just want to reiterate, kind of 2-round punch today. But the significant tornado parameter rises with this first round. But it's not as high with the first round as far north. You don't have as much kind of storm fuel up here in southern Wisconsin, southeastern Wisconsin, southern sections of Minnesota initially. So this is the first round. This is getting after lunchtime. Well, I want you to notice look down here. This is the significant tornado parameter indicating ingredients for severe weather. The higher the number, the better the ingredients. Watch how it begins to spike around 4 to 5 p.m. Folks, this is right when those storms fire up later on this afternoon in those areas I just mentioned in southern Iowa. If you're going to get a strong tornado or a tornado in general, it's going to be in this area right in here. And then this continues, and that significant tornado parameter spikes to a 10, 11, or 12. And not everybody's going to get a storm into here, but if you do, all hazards on the table, very large hail, everything. And then this continues to trail off into western Illinois. So that's right where those storms form. And sure enough, you look at the updraft velocity swath. I want to back this up a little bit. There's that first round of storms you see right there that kind of sweeps through. But if you notice, watch this little area right into here pop up and then take the same directional movement. Let's get this. That's tearing my nerves up. Anyways, we'll not worry about it. But there it is. You see how it pops up right into there? And where you see these highlighted colors and things like that, that is where this particular model run is indicating the most rotation with these storms. So got to be aware of these. And, you even look at the latest, this is the 09Z run. And it's kind of the same thing. First round moves in, then we just got to watch. There it is. It kind of pops up some secondary storms right in here. And if we actually look at the storm structure, I know I'm spending a lot of time on Iowa, but I really am concerned for Iowa today. First round of storms goes, and then there's those ones that immediately follow behind those, the main line right in here. And this main line of storms, guys, this is why I think you could potentially get a bump up in the wind outlook. Look how this main line of storms is sweeping through eastern Iowa. This is an intense line of storms, and then makes it, all the way up into Wisconsin. I'll go on and show you Wisconsin. I mean, look how these storms. These are very intense storms. They do lose some gas, but they're still packing a punch all the way into southern and central Wisconsin up here. So please be aware of some storms later on this afternoon, this evening, if you live in the southern half of Wisconsin. So I know I spent a lot of that. So let's go on and move on down to Missouri and Illinois. Not going to spend quite as much time on this area in northern Arkansas. Let's talk about that too. Same kind of deal. Main line of storms is up here. Now, this main line of storms that moves in later this morning to early this afternoon, it could certainly affect you guys in northern Missouri also, like Kirksville, Quincy, and this main line of storms will push through western Illinois. I think you're lacking forcing. You got a cap in place down in southern Missouri and areas of Arkansas, but any storms that do fire in this area could be intense in the afternoon hours. It might wait until the evening before they really get going, though. You keep on going. There's those storms that we just talked about. You see around 7 p.m., so 6, 7 p.m. This is in Central Time. You got to watch out if you live in this western section right here of Illinois. And you got to continue to watch out for these storms too. The initial round kind of cruising through Illinois, Rockford, you guys, these storms could be intense around this evening. They could make it all the way into Chicago. We got this kind of line of storms draping down all the way into, the eastern sections and southern sections of Illinois. And you look at these storms down here also, packing a pretty good punch down here into southeastern Missouri, the Boot Hill, Missouri. They're really starting to get going. Northeastern Arkansas, these storms are really firing on all cylinders at this point. You have to get into the evening hours, though, before they really get going. And, after you get to about, like midnight tonight, these storms could be quite intense, producing maybe a small tornado risk, damaging winds, maybe some hail. Down here in western Tennessee, western Kentucky, you certainly just want to be mindful of these storms later tonight. And then by the time, you're getting into after midnight tonight, these storms are cruising through Indiana. But, I think they'll lose a lot of gas at this point. And then we have to watch as we get into tomorrow afternoon. So, a significant tornado parameter for this region right in here. Here it comes, spiking. You notice the ingredients rise for tornadoes in this area. It's just, do any storms form? I mean, you got some pretty higher end ingredients all the way down to central Arkansas, even further south. It's just, do you get any storms that fire up? You potentially do as you start to get closer to midnight. Significant tornado parameter doesn't look as high down here, but it still is certainly higher up here in Illinois. So you got to watch for maybe a nocturnal tornado risk up here into Illinois. This is around like the wee hours of the morning, and it really begins to drop off once you start to get into Indiana, but then it begins to build again for tomorrow's risk. So we'll briefly go over the ingredients one last time for you folks, and then we'll do it again for tomorrow's threat, probably in tomorrow morning's video. But this is what's driving this today. So chances are, if you live in areas of Iowa, you're waking up, especially in like northeast, eastern Iowa, waking up with some very dry, cool air. You're thinking, how are we going to get severe weather today? Same thing in like northern Illinois and certainly in southeastern Wisconsin. Dew points in the 30s. But as you continue to make your way to about midday, notice this moist air rising from the south. All of a sudden, you're getting dew points in the low to mid 60s in southern Iowa, plenty of moist air in Missouri, and building throughout the Mississippi Valley, all the way throughout Illinois, even Indiana. The moist air is building in. And this is that little bit of a triple point right into here. Surface low right into here. Triple point, meaning you're having the overlapping of conditions that support tornadoes, severe weather. And there is that slither of low-level moisture supporting severe weather. Certainly will feel quite humid out there if you live in areas of especially southeastern Iowa. And this is right where that kind of concerning line of storms, secondary line of storms, could sweep through. And then a little bit more dry air moves in. And then overnight tonight, pretty much the entire state of Illinois, even up into southern Wisconsin, is kind of socked into some very moist air. This will help drive a severe weather threat overnight all the way into Indiana into tomorrow morning. But I do think Indiana will drop off pretty good. But, I mean, very moist air all the way down to western Kentucky. The other thing you look at is the Cape levels. I mean, which, you can indicate, not always, but a lot of times off surface moisture, what your Cape levels are going to be. But you notice that ahead of the main line, you got just enough energy driving that main line. But behind that line, which is really up into here at this point around 4 or 5 p.m., you got pockets of Cape reaching over 2,000 joules per kilogram, kind of driving and kind of setting up shop, if you will, for these storms that could develop right into here. So plenty of energy for these storms to munch off of, for sure. And then the last thing you'll look at is that low-level jet in this region. it will certainly be increasing as we get into this afternoon. I mean, you got a 40 to 50, 55 knot low-level jet, so winds about a mile up in the air are certainly whipping and definitely creating wind shear and directional shear for tornado development. Some spin in the atmosphere, a little bit of backing of the winds with the surface low very close, and you will certainly have the kinematics for a tornado threat today. So be safe in Iowa. That's my update for that. You guys will have to let me know what happens. Definitely let me know if I butcher any name. I'm sure I did. But the southeastern U.S., the rest of the southeast today, pretty quiet for the most part. You know, we get into this afternoon. I do want to watch the development of a rogue, isolated, maybe a strong to severe storm. I mean, maybe somewhere in North Carolina, maybe even upstate South Carolina. You see these storms popping up here. So don't be surprised if you live around Fayetteville, give or take 100, 200 miles. Storm fires up, Sand Hills in North Carolina, maybe up to Raleigh. And we're definitely going to have some storms up here, but I'll section out that area here in a second. But these storms could, dance around here. Not a whole lot of flow to really drive them one way or the other. Almost kind of a summer-type pattern. This evening, those storms could fire up in east central North Carolina. And then, of course, you got these storms that are beginning to enter the picture that I kind of mentioned just a second ago for areas of Arkansas. And I'm telling you, we could have a tornado risk in eastern Arkansas later tonight. Definitely, the ingredients are there. You're just kind of not getting the forcing of the storms during the most favorable time of the day. And just taking a little bit of more of a southerly look at what we just showed you. This is what the HRRR model is showing. Not a whole lot during the daylight hours, but right as the sun's setting from Little Rock, maybe even northeastern Texas, but kind of diagonally going right across the state of Arkansas. Could have some storm development with this. And then we're starting to move into like 9, 10 p.m., the sun's setting. You just got to watch these storms right in here. If you live in Arkansas, eastern Arkansas, getting into western Tennessee, these storms could produce some gusty winds, hail, and even a small tornado risk. There is a 2 to 5% chance of a tornado that kind of extends all the way down into kind of the southern sections of the Mississippi Valley. And then these will kind of cruise on into western Tennessee, creating a ruckus overnight. Might wake you up in the middle of the night if you live in like Dyersburg, Memphis. And I do think they'll lose some steam as they kind of cruise across the entire state of Tennessee, but definitely some rain is possible, maybe some pollen washers. And so definitely be aware of that. Northeast today, not a whole lot going on. Maybe some snow showers. April snow showers could wrap around into northern Maine. Very possible, maybe some flurries. But we do need to watch these storms in Ohio today. Not a huge concern. Kind of a day like yesterday or the day before down here. Some storms will fire up in West Virginia. West Virginia has been very stormy this spring. Maybe not for everywhere, but it looks like you guys have been the epicenter, at least in the Apps region, of the most storms. So definitely had some action so far this spring, if you like a good old spring storm. But, just some isolated convection firing up down here. But outside of that, we get into the overnight hours, start to get some energy moving in from that system affecting the Midwest today and waking up to some rain showers in western PA, West Virginia, Ohio. I don't think there'll be anything severe with these. It's really the energy that moves in after this main push of rain. A little bit closer look, though, at areas of the Ohio Valley. We start to get into, this is around 4 or 5 p.m. Just, Columbus, down here to southeastern Ohio. Maybe Charleston, West Virginia again, Morgantown, down here to Beckley. I'm brain farting which B name that's called. But anyways, you get my point if you live in West Virginia. I apologize. But you got some storms, strong storms that are possible. You might get an upgrade to a slight risk in this area for damaging winds. It's very possible. Some hail is possible with these storms. They'll kind of form and kind of drift and move eastward. So be aware of these. This will happen later on this afternoon, this evening. So South Central U.S., not a whole lot to speak on. Your big weather day was, yesterday. But we get into this evening, get into the overnight hours. There's those storms that might fire up in Arkansas. And then we get into the morning hours. Definitely some gusty winds, though. Some very strong winds of fire danger. Definitely just be aware of some gusty winds in the southern high plains with this. But outside of that, things have calmed down for the time being. Now, the north central U.S., you got the cooler, just rainier side of this. And then you got that surface low right here in the stormy side of this. As far as the rainy side of this, by the time these storms kind of make it up to Minneapolis, I do think they will lose some steam. But you are going to get some gusty showers, maybe some rumbles of thunder into Minneapolis a little bit later on this afternoon. A round of rain will move in. Even could get some storms all the way into southeastern Minnesota. Could be quite intense too. So watch out for some damaging winds with these storms that kind of sweep through in southeastern Minnesota. There's that surface low that eventually spins into northwestern Iowa. We'll get some rain, maybe some rumbles of thunder all the way up into Green Bay, the UP and Michigan later tonight. Maybe a little bit of a wintry mix up here in northeast Minnesota. We'll see what happens. And then the initial surface low will create a little bit of spinach out here. Yeah, I love to say that word. I hate spinach though. But the storms are ongoing tomorrow morning. And these, we got to watch these little storms. A little bit of a kind of a cold core setup right up near the surface low. Not a whole lot of thermodynamics to work with. But down here, there's some overlapping. We're going to have a tornado risk in the Ohio Valley tomorrow. But rainfall between now and the next 24 hours, definitely a pocket of a few inches of rain in Iowa with multiple rounds of rain. Southern half of Minnesota, certainly a couple inches of rain. Minneapolis could get an inch of rain or more. Same thing with eastern, southeastern Wisconsin. A couple inches of rain with this. And, of course, this rain will move. Let's go on and take it all the way out to Thursday morning. A lot of rain in the Great Lakes region. Definitely some rainy times over the next 24 hours for sure. And we take a look at the north-central U.S., a little bit further west. We're already getting a lot of this rain right now in the Sioux Falls, Sioux City region. So definitely be aware of any kind of standing water out here. Western U.S., pretty quiet. This system's moving on out. But we do have some energy that's going to fly down with some lower pressure swinging down, upper trough, upper low, swinging down out of Canada. And this will actually promote a severe weather threat for Thursday. And we'll speak on that a little bit at the very end of the video. But we do have some moisture that swings on down, a little bit of cold air. Some snow is possible in the northern Rockies of western Montana, even a little bit into Idaho, even all the way down into northern sections of Wyoming, all the way into tomorrow afternoon. And it will continue to be around. And we'll look at snow just between now and the next 24 hours. Several inches of snow is possible. It just depends on your elevation. A little bit more snow in the Bighorn Mountains. And all this snow will taper off in the Rockies of Wyoming and Colorado probably today. But then we'll get this round later on today that will move through western Montana, like I said, pumping out a several inch to maybe even a foot of snow depending on your elevation. Temperatures today, very warm again, not as widespread as far as warmth, but 80s all the way up into the Midwest, Ohio Valley, cooler in the Northeast, just 40s, 50s, and 60s depending on where you are. We'll have another day where we'll get close to 90 in the Southeast. Southern Texas will be well into the 90s. Pocket of cooler air in the Dakotas and Nebraska with the surface low kind of moving off and some cold air wrapping in, but you're just getting to that time of the year where cold front moves in and it doesn't really cool you off as much as it used to. We're just getting deeper in April now. Definitely a pocket of cooler air in the western U.S., but not too bad. Southwestern U.S. warming on up now. San Diego, L.A., Las Vegas, Phoenix, even up to San Fran. You guys 60s, 70s, and 80s depending on where you are. Nice day, warming on up in the Southwest. We do have that severe weather risk for tomorrow, folks. I do want to mention this. There's a slight risk that extends from Evansville, Indiana, all the way up to Detroit, back to Cleveland, all the way into northern sections of Indiana, includes southern sections of Michigan. Columbus, Cincinnati's included in this. Marginal risk extends all the way from the deep south all the way up to pretty much the southern tip of Lake Huron. A little bit of a baby marginal risk here. We'll mention that in later videos. But what is this driven off of? Tornado threat. 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location right here in this brown area. Includes some higher populated areas. Detroit, Cleveland, down to Fort Wayne. What is that? Never mind, I'm brain farting. A 2% risk of a tornado in the green within 25 miles of any given location. The wind threat, just a 5% risk. Hail threat, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. We'll see what increases in the later outlooks. Could get a bump up to a 10% risk. Definitely not. I'm definitely leaving that on the table. And we take a look at the latest HRRR model. Start off tomorrow morning. Morning rain will clear out. That morning rain is guaranteed. What forms around midday tomorrow? You already got a line of storms quickly developing here in the southern half of lower Michigan. Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, all the communities in southern Michigan will start to see some storms, or at least an opportunity for some storms. It's these that I'm the most concerned about that develop in western Ohio. They could develop in eastern Indiana. Very well could. These will have the best overlapping conditions. Your best low-level moisture and your best kinematics as far as wind flow aloft mashing together right here in Ohio. Ohio has been the epicenter of some nasty weather so far this spring, dating back all the way back from like early March, like February. But these storms will sweep through. This is around 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., making their way and affecting areas of like Columbus, heading to Cleveland around around dinner time. And they're still packing a punch all the way into eastern Ohio. I mean, around 6, 7 p.m., these are moving through eastern Ohio. And then they start to affect areas of, let's go on and try to skip to Pennsylvania here. They start to affect areas of like western PA at this point. Let's go on and get right back to where we were. There's those storms right there. This is around 7, 8 p.m. Look at these storms kind of making their way through western PA. Could blast through Pittsburgh around 8, 9 p.m. tomorrow. And then we could get some more storms in northern West Virginia. And then I do think they'll begin to lose some steam as they cross across sections of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So I do want to mention there is a severe weather threat for Thursday. This is driven off something different. We'll have lower pressure that dives down out of Canada. And then there'll be little impulses of energy at the base of this lower pressure, this upper low, and or upper trough. And we are going to have the ingredients for some more severe weather for Thursday. So we'll watch out for that. And we'll talk more on that in the videos to come. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Stay safe today, and I'll talk to you soon.